At Mar-a-Lago, former President Donald Trump is bored and eager to get back in the political arena not as a kingmaker, but as a candidate, but advisors disagree on whether he should bid for the presidency as early as this summer. The Trump camp believes he should wait until after November's midterm elections, but some say he could move more quickly in order to gain support and deny fuel to the already crowded Republican field. Jason Miller, a longtime Trump advisor who traveled with him to a rally in Wyoming over Memorial Day weekend, said he laid out the case for why Trump should accept the nomination. There needs to be clarity about his intentions so that he can start building the operation while it's still fresh in people's minds and they're still active that way. Much of it can be put into action for 2024. Even though a second advisor believes Trump should wait until the more traditional post-midterm period, he remains likely to jump in sooner rather than later. Trump has gathered a variety of opinions. One question is whether he can sort of suppress his excitement about a 2024 rematch and not, say, go ahead and put that statement out, and waits for a big event, a big speech to do it, the second advisor said. A betting person says he's doing it, and he also wants to crowd out the rest of the field. Two people in Trump's orbit told NBC News they had been asked informally to hold July 4 as a date for a possible announcement, but Miller, noting that Trump hasn't yet decided to run, said it is not true that the day has been reserved, even unofficially, for a launch. Taylor Buttigieg, a spokesman for Trump, did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the divide. Trump's decision, and its timing, promised to define the playing field for Republicans' efforts to oust President Joe Biden in 2024, and there is reason for him to feel greater urgency in recent weeks. While he casts a longer shadow over his party than that of any former president in modern times, the footsteps of 2024 Republican hopefuls are growing louder. Several of them have visited early primary states, endorsed candidates in the midterms, or delivered high-profile speeches designed to elevate their standing in the party. That pack includes Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and Senators Tom Cotton, Republican Arkansas, Josh Hawley, Republican Missouri, and Ted Cruz, Republican Texas. There is also an emerging dynamic in which his favorites in multi-candidate races often fail, win or lose, to finish with as much as one-third of the vote. Some Republican operatives see that as a sign that his influence on the GOP electorate has diminished, to say nothing of his standing with a broader public that voted him out of office less than 2 years ago. Perhaps more important, Trump is frustrated by the ennui of engaging mostly through midterm endorsements for candidates he hardly knows, especially when, as has happened in several recent high-profile primaries, they lose. But as much as Trump is tantalized by President Joe Biden's struggles in office and his own impatience, there are plenty of reasons to hold off, Trump allies and Republican strategists say. If Trump announces a bid, his campaign committee will be subject to hard money fundraising limits and a technical ban on coordinating with his Save America super PAC. He would also undoubtedly focus public attention away from Republicans running in midterm races, potentially hurting the party's candidates in swing districts and states. And he might inadvertently aid Biden by giving the president a contrast point. The cleanest path is to have a cage match rematch, the second advisor said. If you have that rematch too early, it could actually help Biden a little bit. Trump in modest doses has been good for Trump. There is precedent for a once and possibly future president, and for the prospect of a Trump-Biden rematch. In 1892, former President Grover Cleveland defeated President Benjamin Harrison, who had unseated Cleveland in 1888. That was one of 6 times in U.S. history that a candidate tried to unseat the incumbent president who beat him 4 years earlier, not counting the elections George Washington won before parties were organized. The first was in 1800, when Thomas Jefferson avenged his loss at the hands of President John Adams. The most recent, Dwight Eisenhower's consecutive wins over Democrat Adlai Stevenson II in 1952 and 1956. In 4 of the 6 contests, the challenger won. In recent months, Trump has teased audiences at his rallies by suggesting that he will, in fact, run in 2024. The truth is, I ran twice, I won twice and I did much better the second time, Trump said at a March rally in Georgia, repeating the lie that he was victorious in 2020. And now we just may have to do it again. In the meantime, he is seeking advice on whether to run and, if he does, when to do so. He always seeks advice from the unlikeliest of places and a very wide pool of voices, Miller said, declining to elaborate on his own discussions with Trump about the matter. I really hope he runs again in 2024.